Greetings, interactive literature fans! It is time to return to the world of darkness, and to an author that I really like. So, let's talk about Werewolf the Apocalypse, the Book of Hungry Names, by Kyle Marquis. Your breath steams. You've run for hours. You don't feel tired. You haven't really felt tired since the change. Snow swirls, bitterly cold lake effect snow that stings your eyes. The sky and ground are white. The trees across the empty meadow black, where frost doesn't hang from their branches. Only one thing moves, leaving a winding trail through the trees. Your prey. You're downwind of it, though not for long, as unpredictable gusts send snow devils racing across the open terrain, and you can smell the acrid reek of steel and plastic. Your prey is close, and you know you have to prove yourself this time. Your last chance. You shake the thought away. You uncovered this threat after all. You found what eluded the others, and they permitted you to lead the hunt. Like your spiritual ancestors ages ago, whose battle against the demons of the earth became the legends of Beowulf, Heracles, Saint Martha. You turned all your knowledge and skill into tracking down this monster, this unclean spirit, this bane. Now you've read the title. You will know that this is werewolf-centric, but there might be aspects to the game that you might not be prepared for if you aren't familiar with the property. While Vampire the Masquerade is a sandbox in the same vein as, well, most tabletop RPGs, Werewolf the Apocalypse has a built-in goal: prevent the apocalypse. Now, what form the apocalypse takes is a bit vague, but is very ecological in nature. The other thing you might not be prepared for is the spiritualism aspect. Being a werewolf in this universe is more than turning into a wolf monster and ripping someone's face off. It is that too, don't get me wrong, but it also puts your character in connection to spirits due to their association with Gaia. So you end up working both the angle of the monster and the angle of the spirit shaman. The deep, trackless woods where no regular mortal has ever stepped. Black trunks, white snow, pure shimmering streams that wind beneath crystalline ice. The barrows of the ancestors, quiet tombs of werewolves and their allies slain at the Battle of Graves Farm, or battles centuries ago. Low, greasy hills marked with Garou glyphs and rough-hewn stones, wreathed in ghostly mist. The liminal stone between the wilds and the people of the map. Your right eye sees wretched urban blight, polluted and accursed, but your left eye sees a frenzied realm of teeming spiritual activity. Red bricks, rusted metal, feral cats stalking the alleys. Clever spirits that have learned to adapt and survive in the shadow of humanity. Luis, Elton says. The sound of rushing water, the last remnants of David Beniki's dam, sinks into the mire. Cold wind races through the valley. You're freezing, your hands and face numb. Elton's lips are blue, but he's smiling. Did it work, you ask? The sky is red. Wait, the red is in the east now. It's dawn. There is also a whole cosmology that the werewolves, who call themselves Garou, have to deal with. Essentially, Gaia, the embodiment of Earth, has three aspects that are supposed to work together. The wild, the creator aspect and ally of the werewolves. The weaver, who reorders and reforms the wild's creations. And the worm, who destroys and recycles the wild's creations. But they have ended up out of balance and hostile to each other, with the werewolves fighting the agents of the worm. And that's just stuff that's specific to the intellectual property. Let's get into the stuff that's in the actual book. But a few things first. This book has two different features worth looking at: Storyteller mode and Iron Wolf mode. Normally in this game, if you lose all of your hit points, it won't end your game. Just a narrative thing will happen and you will get some debuffs on your stats. In Iron Wolf mode, you will die and start over. Now with Storytelling mode, you get to see what stats are being checked with every decision, which is my preference. Another thing worth mentioning, this is a gory book. I am not one to shy away from violence, but this book sometimes goes beyond action thriller and into straight-up horror. You frantically wipe blood out of your eyes. When you can see again, you see more blood. Melodies, blasted all over the glass cube wall along the carpet. The shotgun shell blew the far door off its hinges, revealing a file room. Shredded papers float through the air and stick to the bloody carpet. Another shotgun blast sets your ears ringing, but Melody has crawled back around the corner, clutching her mangled guts with both hands. She tries to retrieve her axe, but a third blast rips through the tile and forces her to yank her hand back. "Ow, you asshole!" she chokes, blood running down her chin. "You just saw someone and pulled the trigger? What the fuck?" "Step out with your hands above your head," a shaky voice says. You can smell 3 or 4 men around the corner. "Enough sneaking around," Melody grumbles as her stomach boils and starts to heal. Be happy I read that quote. I could have chosen the one where we see evidence of the bad guys torturing animals. But anyway, who are we playing? Well, our character starts off in upstate New York. I am not certain if it's ever actually stated where. You are on a mission to kill a being that is the worm spirit, possessing a living creature called a fomor. In this case, a horse and rider. While you prepare for the hunt, you will fill out your backstory and your starting stats. While there seems to be a lot of backstories to get, the basic idea seems unchanged. You live your first decade with your parents, but at some point you experience your first change into a werewolf and, succumbing to bestial frenzy, kill them both. Well, that ain't traumatizing at all. You were quickly taken in by a local werewolf pack, consisting of an Ahrun named Clay, a Bonar Galliard named Scarper, and a Black Fury Thurge named Blacktarn. I will go over most of those terms later. You do learn over the years, though, that this pack is kinda useless. They were heroes in the past, but they have grown stagnant, no longer doing the work of the Garou. They train you a little bit, but not properly, and whenever things go wrong, they always find a way to blame you for it. Don't worry though, you quickly leave them behind. After deciding which Garou form is your preference, what moon you've been born under, and many other aspects that will lead you to this point, you kill the spirit. The rider turns around in time, but you're too fast, and you hit him fangs first, rip him off his horse and drag him down. You outweigh the big man by 400 or 500 pounds, but he's quick. He squirms out from under you the moment you both hit the snow. Abandoning his rifle, he rolls to his hands and knees and draws a Ka bar fighting knife from a quick-draw holster. He does some cool-looking Eskrima stuff with it for a second, and then you bring your claw down and rip his face off. He hits the snow face first, blood streaming, already dead. Almost too easy. You force yourself under control as flies swirl around you, dazzling you with their iridescence. "Well done, little wolf," the dead rider's horse says through bloody lips. You catch a glimpse of a swollen jaw and huge incisors. Then the horse turns and kicks you in the chest, hard enough to send you through a tree trunk. When you get up again, it's coming for you. So far, everything had gone according to plan, just as you had practiced 100 times, but now you're forced to think on the fly as you confront the real threat, this mangled horse thing. You taste blood in your mouth, hear your frightened breath. Now it is for real. No mistakes. I'm quick enough to dodge, weave, and fall back until this Bane makes a mistake. Dex plus athletics. You track where it came from and successfully make it to Northampton, Massachusetts, leaving your old pack behind and learning about the mysteries of the Brook caern. Okay, a little backstory here. A while ago, there was a huge group of werewolves, at least 50 of them, hanging around this area of Western Mass. This was the Brook caern, and it was noted for being a really powerful group. Well, a couple of years before the events of this book, the entire cairn of over 50 werewolves got destroyed overnight, and nobody knows what happened. The patron spirit of Brook, known as the Thundercat, finds you and intends to use you to potentially heal the lands and rebuild the pack.
Practical and focused. I respect that, though a bit demanding. And what do you mean, we, cub? The question echoes in your mind. What do you mean? Do you mean this? Or does the cat? Maybe you're nothing except... No. Alas, I am not what I once was. I cannot make you think clearly. I cannot write my will into the book of the world. Think my thoughts. Do what... No. Alas, you are your own wolf, Luis. Though you're right in that we're in this together, aren't we? And if there is a we should start by learning more about the Bane, which is what you've already thought of. Isn't it? Wasn't that your thought, not mine? The storm-colored cat hops off the brick wall and starts cutting through the woods. You shake off the snow covering you and stamp your feet. The spirit turns and beckons you to hurry. She looks tired and thin, with patches of missing fur and blood on her paw pads. No, do I really look like that? Great Gaia, you're right. Once I shamed the sphinxes. haunted the dreams of tigers.
So it becomes your job to find the other werewolves and their allies and bring some semblance of order to the area. Though that does get a bit complicated. Speaking of the other werewolves, let's talk characters. I'm going to skip over your old pack, as they are mostly only present in the prologue. Instead, we will start with Elton Day, the first Garou you meet in Northampton. He is a Shadow Lord Thurge, one with a pretty gnarly mastery over some Garou magics, specifically lightning, a gift he got directly from the Thundercat. He seemed to also learn a lot of his magics from his late wife, Catherine. This British black guy also spent a fair amount of time studying in Germany. Why the hell he decided to settle down in a small town in western Massachusetts is anyone's guess. Being a Shadow Lord, Elton is used to taking charge of things, but he often seems reluctant to actually make decisions. I will read a quote here, but I am not particularly good at accents, so bear with me. The alley is so dark that even your sensitive eyes take a moment to adjust. The man standing in front of the stained bricks is a few years older than you, with a dark, serious face and short black hair. He's dressed in tattered but elegant clothes, a black frock coat with mismatching buttons, polished black boots, and a dark, frayed V-neck sweater. Leather gloves protrude from the breast pocket of his coat. The young man has an air of a scholar, especially with the oversized leather book clutched in his hand, but his knuckles are crisscrossed with pale scars. Though he looks dangerous, he makes no move to attack. "My name is Elton Day," he says. "Miss Clear told me you had come." Another werewolf you meet is Daphne Clear. She is a glasswalker ragabash, and as such, spends a lot of her time covering up werewolf activity online. She uses her media company and her computer spirits, yes, there are computer spirits, to redact records, alter news stories, bribe police, and do whatever keeps the existence of werewolves secret. After all, werewolves have difficulty being subtle. He's in a small city called Holyoke, a few miles south of here. Finding Patrick might be tricky, but you both get a text. It's Daphne Clear. "Elton, you have left a trail that blind chihuahuas could follow. Cease all activities." Elton spends several minutes thumbing in a response, angrily writing and then deleting. Finally, he settles on, "No." An immediate response from Miss Clear. "The men you two killed were Brian Lannery, USAF, killed by Luis in New York State, and Doug Nguyen, a Holyoke police officer killed by Elton yesterday. Electrocuted. Those were citizens." "I shouldn't have used 11 bolt. She's got me there," Elton says. Elton can shoot lightning. You file away that unusual and alarming fact. "I'll be spending all month cleaning this up." On the subject of secrecy, like with the vampires of VTM, the Garou want to keep their existence secret. And while the masquerade can be debated, and in fact was debated in Night Road, the Garou's veil seems a bit more necessary. The rage that all werewolves feel makes them powerful combatants, but it also makes it difficult for Garou to get along with people. They are hot-tempered and quite prone to violence, and if they fail to control themselves, people get killed. The fact that our protagonist killed their parents in their first shift is proof enough of that. So we have persecution on that angle. There is also the fact that Garou have natural enemies in the form of the worm, and as such probably shouldn't draw too much attention, as the agents of the worm could fight back. The Garou also believe that exposing the supernatural leads humans to study occultism and magic, and more mages can make life harder for the wolves. Now their rage makes subtlety difficult, so it is a good thing that they have another advantage, the delirium. This is basically an effect that happens whenever a human sees a werewolf being all werewolfy. The rage of the wolf, the unnatural occurrences, and the sudden fear brought on by the sudden appearance of a giant predator overwhelms the minds of humans, causing instinctual fear responses that can affect their memories of the event afterwards. However, things like physical evidence still needs to be covered up. You flinch and drop the filing cabinet, which cracks open and slides down the icy hill, vomiting manila folders. Elton leaves a streak of blood as he scrambles for purchase, then angrily shifts into his larval form. He digs his clawed hands into the hard-packed snow and stands up. But who the hell took the shot? It takes you a moment to spot the scarred man as he steps around the east side of the house. He used the lengthening shadows for cover. He aims a pistol at you, then looks at Elton, just as the Thurge finishes shifting. You can almost see the delirium eat the scarred man's brain. "You're real!" he screams. "You're real!" "Real shot, daft yank! I was..." The Thurge, who has regained his feet, throws himself into the snow again as bullets zip over his head. He slides down the icy bank, leaving a trail of crimson. The guard is shooting in a blind panic. He turns and another bullet cracks the window next to your head. There can't be more than a half dozen security personnel here, but they're all shouting down below, converging on your location. Elton is hit bad. He's back on his feet, regenerating as he stumbles for Roscoe and the cat car, but he's going to run right into 3 guards who are moving towards the vehicle. Of more immediate concern, the scarred man has turned his pistol and flashlight your way, and he's still lucid enough to shoot you. Anyways, back to characters. After you establish yourself in Northampton, you and Elton set out to find 3 more Garou who have survived the destruction of the Brook cairn. You can pick the order you go look for them, so I'm going to list them in the order that I got them in my first playthrough. Melody Pally's Silverfang Philodox hides out in Ashland, where you go find her. While out there, you see some of the effects of spirit without oversight can have on people. Melody often argues with Elton over leadership, as the Silverfangs are made to be aristocrats, while Shadow Lords are made to be harsh leaders. It is also noted that Melody seems to enjoy using her rage, as she willingly puts herself in the front lines of combat, either using her wolf claws or tearing at her enemies with a double-bladed axe. It takes 2 hours to meet with Melody on the far side of the territory. She's holding a frightening-looking axe. No wonder her bag always looks so heavy. You came prepared, you say. Oh, this little thing? The Philodox says. My sister found this during her year abroad, and thought I'd like to hit people with it when Krynos form is inappropriate. It's not a talisman or anything, but if you put it in a copy, he stops trying to shoot you. It's a beautiful weapon, exactly what your mind's eye conjures when you say the words medieval axe, all dark and inlaid steel. It's heavy enough that even Elton might want 2 hands in its Homid form, though in her Glarbo form, Melody could whip it around like a Bowie knife. She has some kind of effect surrounding her that causes people of all genders to get very attracted to her, something that is endlessly annoying to her. I mean, she is pretty, but not the kind of pretty I would see on the cover of Vogue or something. Also, Melody is Jewish, which is something that other werewolves find odd, considering that Garou cosmology has 3 deities they have to deal with, in addition to a whole world of spirits, makes it hard to reconcile a monotheistic religion. Melody also has a special relationship to the dead, to the point of keeping her sister's skull in her house, and she's always communicating with the spirits of dead Garou and family members. As such, she looks after the barrows. The second trip my first wolf took was to the Hog's Throne concert, where their next packmate is. While there, we learn about another of the foes that the Garou must face, the cult of Fenris. These are Garou that still technically work for the good of Gaia, but their methods are some that the rest of the Garou find distasteful, like murdering uninvolved humans, turning on their fellow Garou, and joining the Nazis. It's also interesting that they follow a deity that is associated with the Norse apocalypse. The Garou and the cult fight against each other a lot, and there is speculation that the cult is being manipulated by the worm to destroy Gaia and her warriors. You get pretty well acquainted with Oliver Boone, aka Heinrich, and his group and your own will come to blows. Heinrich owns a construction company called Huvu Development that he uses to enforce and expand his territory. It takes you another minute to spot the source of the disturbance. 3 men and 1 woman. The men all in hunter camo, the woman in colorless streetwear. The crowd steers away like fish avoiding a shark. You've seen that pattern before. Fear. Fear of rage. They're Garou, and not just any Garou. They're practically incandescent with rage. If they start anything, they're going to trigger a mass panic. As Screedy Lagodi plays obliviously on, and most of the crowd ignores them, the Garou approach you. You? What did you do? You're the boy from upstate New York, the apparent leader says. Bald, with a brown goatee and bright blue eyes. Short, at least compared to the other men, as he's not quite 6 feet. When he stops in front of you, the stink of him keeps rolling like a cloud of poison gas across the trenches. Everyone still near you retreats from the musk, leaving you alone with the other Garou as they fan out. The leader chews his lip, then says, "You're on my land, and you didn't introduce yourself to Fenris." The packmate you will find at the concert is Child of Gaia Goliard Ashley Nin, who is rather special in the Garou for being wolf-born. Her parents were wolves that were from Wolf Hollow at Ipswich, Mass. Hey, I've been there. Nice place. Nin, having started her life as a wolf, can come off as a little strange sometimes. She is no less intelligent or culture savvy as other people, just a little odd, a little spacey, and nuances of situations can go over her head. So she is often more than happy to let others make decisions for her. She occupies this weird space where she is personable, but people are still a little scared of her due to her uncanny valley nature. Taking the role of Child of Gaia, Nin takes a more pacifistic role. As far as werewolves go, she will still rip off faces when the situation calls for it. And she focuses more on the healing of nature portion of the job. She looks after the spirits and protects her lands from harm. Her connection to wildlife makes her well suited to looking after the sacred forest. Nin rummages around in her pockets. She's wearing cargo shorts under her shirt, and pulls out her Massachusetts ID. Ashley Nin. My mentor. She helped me become a Child of Gaia, and she liked Anais Nin, who was a writer, Nin says. That was my only name for the first few years, and before everyone died. I didn't speak very well. I had to learn once I was on my own, but then Trevor from St. Homunculus and his girlfriend helped me get an ID, and we made up a first name. His girlfriend is nice. Were both your parents wolves? You ask, flipping through her albums. Yes, Nin says. I asked Elton about looking further back, but records are spotty before 1988, when Wolf Hollow opened up in Ipswich. Elton mentioned once that my human ancestors are probably indigenous people from around New England, but I don't know if there are any of them left, or if I just carry on old genes from people who died centuries ago. Nin shrugs. So you're not named after the 9-inch nails, you ask, stopping at the pretty hate machine on vinyl. Nin bursts out laughing. The fake band from Twin Peaks? She asks. No, Louise. Of course not. Finally, you go into Holyoke to find Patrick Hodge, who your group calls Podge. He is an Ahrun bone gnawer, which is apparently an unusual combination. Ahruns, full moon wolves, are naturally inclined towards combat, while the bone gnawer tribe acts as scavengers and spies. Podge puts a lot of work destroying the things harming nature and people. However, he is very protective of people. Part of that is his morality, part of that is the fact that bone gnawers depend on humans, as they tend to subsist on the leftovers of society. Podge goes dumpster diving and manages to find a lot of good stuff. And not just food, but computer parts and wind turbines. He tries to leave as low a footprint as possible and protects the margins of society. He looks after the slums in Northampton. Show me your phone, he says. You hold it up. He grabs it. The Ahrun has fast hands, and works some kind of gift. Hey, you say, as he does the same thing to your laptop. You're about to object further when you feel spirits moving through the Umbra. You're reminded of your trip to Everlight HQ. Heat and pressure. A sound and smell like grinding steel. Okay, that's all of you. We've had some spirits snooping around their chats. It was a huge fight to get Elton to hand his stuff over. I don't know how you got anywhere in your Neo-Albion investigation with him tagging along. We've been talking to some local computer people about OPSEC, and he's worthless. I'm trying to act all casual, and Elton's like, excuse me, good sir, where might I partake in the Dunkin' Donuts? Anyway, I had to do some serious haggling with rats, but the cockroach and centipede spirits should keep us secure for a while. While going to get Podge, you run across an advanced security force called Neo-Albion. Yes, they literally call themselves different words for New England. These guys seem knowledgeable enough of werewolves that they carry guns that have silver bullets, which can be a problem for werewolves. There are two more characters worth mentioning before the spoiler section. First is Nomi, a non-binary person who works as a journalist for a rebunking magazine called Cahoots. The magazine seems like the kind of cuckoo conspiracy publications that say Elvis was abducted by aliens and such. But while their guesses can be really off base, they can be close enough to the truth to threaten the veil. If you've played Night Road, you might have seen a few Cahoots articles on the goings-on in the American Southwest. However, Nomi themselves can be a useful ally, as they frequently show up in your business, and always seems to be doing research into things you're looking into. And as such, even though they are out of the loop, they have access to valuable information on the situations you're dealing with. The trick is getting that information without them finding out what you are, as you know they will immediately publish a story on you in the magazine. The second other major character is Giselle Dedekind. This is the only returning character from Night Road, where she is a very minor character, but she becomes a much more major player in the Book of Hungry Names. Giselle is not a vampire nor a werewolf. She is a mage, presumably using the rules from White Wolf's Mage the Ascension game. Giselle's magic is not the same as the magic that the Garou can use, as it is much more flexible, but potentially more volatile or costly. After she escapes from a blood bond to a vampire in Night Road, she goes to Massachusetts for her own goals, and allies directly with the cult of Fenris. And looking at her shirt, yeah, she seems to subscribe to the cult's fascistic tendencies. Now, while she is allied to the cultists don't trust her and her weird magic, and she has her own agenda separate from theirs. Now, a fun thing here is that while Night Road mainly had you going on solo adventures, Hungry Names has you working with a pack. So you get a lot of time to get to know these characters, and you get a lot of fun banter between them. "I'll text Nin," Elton says. Your phone buzzes. "Nin, how quickly can you get to Luis's? We're going north to find Melody." "I'm eating a muffin. Can you finish this muffin in such a way, banana walnut, that you arrive before noon? I'm already cubbing, I'm just trying to make conversation. It's important to know what your friends are doing in their everyday lives, and you are my friend." "Aw," Elton says, out loud. "Stop screwing around and hurry up." There's also the fact that, while you have a lot of stuff you are doing, it is shown that your packmates are quite busy too. Some of them have their own mundane jobs, they all look over various territories and take care of the spirits there. They're doing their own investigations, and they help each other out with tasks that might have nothing to do with you. In less than a minute, Elton responds, "Damn it, Nin, why didn't you consult with me? You can't just wander around key investigation sites." Nin's response just a few minutes later, "I did not consult with you, because when I mentioned the subject, you said you had to put books away, and then you left for the back room for the box store and put books away. Also, I didn't mention everything I learned because you'd keep telling me not to dominate a conversation. For example, I learned that the bartender knows Louise by appearance, but not by name. If he went there, he would be recognized, and maybe that recognition would go to someone, like Heinrich. I did not go with Podge, because many people know him, and whenever I go somewhere with Melody, all the guys and half the girls follow her around and grovel for her to step on them. And you are black, and I know I was born a wolf, but this crowd was very white, Elton, and a tall black guy with an accent who dresses like Javert would stand out. Even I know that. So I went with my bandmate, and now we can play shows there whenever so I can get inside." And this game does a good job in remembering continuity, especially the bits where you collect the wolves in a different order. The conversations will change. Some dialogue will be different depending on if you have points in a certain skill, and some dialogues change depending on your convictions. Now, the tracking of continuity isn't perfect. My footage capture run had a weird thing where a certain character was both alive and dead at the same time. But it is a big game with a lot of variables, so I cut them some slack on this one. As a werewolf, you do get into plenty of fights, and you do get plenty of opportunities to be a badass. But there's also a lot of opportunities to use your wits and people skills, as a lot of the game is also investigation. Madame Mouse and Butterfly argue in the umbra near your head. Mouse wants to sneak past the cops, while Butterfly wants you to bluff your way past. It won't be easy, but I misrepresent myself as the son of one of the local property owners and talk to the cops to get as much information as I can. Manipulation and subterfuge. I also like the various bad guys, and that it seems that they are also very active. You might be working against them, but they are not idle either. A few times your pack gets hit with some nasty retaliatory actions, and not just from the physical threats either. More mundane threats are involved as well. The various groups have some manner of control over the local police, as well as the local governments. Neo Albion has about 20 ex-military goons, with those silver shotgun attachments, Podge says. They know where we live, but they don't know who we are. I bet they think we're like Lucindo or Roscoe, people who feed information to the real threats. Otherwise, they would have sent something worse than our landlord. But this is only going to get worse. For now, let's finish cleaning. Then I'll let the others know to expect trouble. You spend the rest of the evening cleaning up and rechecking your locks. Podge makes plans to install a key code system on the door, like the one he installed at Nin's house, and link it directly to his main security network. While he sketches out his plans to reinforce security, you make sure everyone else knows what happened. Melody drops by the next morning with some replacement planks. She also has cheese from Holpin's goats and fresh baked bread. So you and the Philodox enjoy a pleasant lunch, while Podge locks himself away upstairs to inventory the damage and plan an extensive dumpster dive. Only after you eat, as Melody scrolls her phone, do the two of you realize how much else has happened. She gives you the summary as you skim the group chat with growing alarm. Elton fired from his job at the bookstore, the Philodox says. Nin arrested. A hog throne show attacked by Nazis with sabers and steel masks. Lucinda's art and industry building purchased by an unknown developer, and all tenants turned out. All within 48 hours, while you and Elton checked out that construction site. But, as with Night Road, we do get the occasional bit of levity. Marquis does a very good job of inserting humor here and there to help break up the tension. Your vehicle is a Pontiac Montana with cat ears, whiskers, and a tail. The sign on the sliding door reads, Cat Car Home Inspections. We put the meow in homeowner. Oh, Luis, this is the lowest I've ever sunk, Elton says, wiping his face. And I joined the Shadow Lords to impress a girl. Oh my lord. It is never getting worse than this. Anyway, let's go. Stumbling with laughter, he gets in the passenger side, looks around confused for a second, then clambers into the driver's seat. Your app updates with 3 locations and 3 blank checklists. As promised, most of the work seems unambiguous and requires little training. So you should... Elton, you ask. The third is still laughing. Sorry, I'm better, he says, still chuckling. He pulls in the traffic, and it only takes him a moment to drive on the right side of the road. And here's the part where I consider to be spoiler territory, as it is around the halfway point of the book, and there are some revelations here. So if you wish to skip spoilers, go to this time code on the screen right now, to go to where I talk about the mechanics of the game. So, the spoiler section is a go. After you collect all of your packmates, who will assist you for the rest of the game, you will encounter the big bad of this game. Let me introduce you to Eater of Names. So why doesn't he show himself? Scarper says, with the hectoring tone of a conservative talking head on cable news. A few years ago, he was all, we are prisoners on this blackening blue globe, and, he coughs again, finishes his beer, waits for another one. Why spread our poison to the stars? This is the price you pay for everything you've been given. His voice changes halfway through and he coughs again. Then looks around as if he doesn't know where he is, suddenly afraid, eyes watering. Maybe there are no stars out there at all. We have let humanity dictate what is true for too long. A ripple passes over the skin of his face, and Conrad jumps, nearly dropping his phone, but no one else seems to notice anything. Why have we tolerated their naming of things for so long? Scarper says, his voice suddenly deeper, his eyes wide and terrified, and then his eyes go blank. We are their jailers, but we have failed in our duty. We have let their mind children spread. No more, no more. They thought I was dead, but some dreams cannot. Then Scarper's mouth splits down the middle, and a snow-white lupine jaw smeared with blood and filth pushes out of his skull, followed by burning green eyes. People finally start to scream. Eater of Names is another werewolf, though this guy is a black spiral dancer. These werewolves are ones that are directly opposed to Gaia, and as such, opposed to you. It is different from the cult of Fenris, as those guys are misguided in their service to Gaia. The black spiral dancers are directly hostile to it. Eater of Names was trained by another spiral dancer, Breaker of Wings, who wants to prevent humans from achieving space travel, to prevent them from fleeing the world. Eater of Names wants to prevent humans from fleeing into information, which I take to mean they want to remove all traces of humanity from the Earth, so no future life will be able to find humanity's history and knowledge. Eater of Names' campaign of destruction started at Brook, where he allied himself with a powerful spirit. This is the other main opposing force he will deal with, the Answering Tiger. The Answering Tiger was originally a spirit with domain over the Vermont Yankee nuclear power plant. The Broadbrook Garou faced off against this spirit before, and shut down the nuclear plant. The Answering Tiger spirit kinda died, kinda not. It endures enough, and Eater of Names helped it get back into power. This spirit has an ability that is pretty difficult to deal with. It creates these sort of illusions in a person's mind without them noticing, and tricks the person into attacking their allies, giving away information, or even live out several days over the course of a second to mentally exhaust someone. And these illusions have some manner of realness to them, more like a person was temporarily transported to an alternate timeline that was constructed by the tiger. So things that happen in the illusory world could carry over into the real world. Garou are very well suited to simple fights, but this kind of trickery is very difficult for them to deal with. Answering Tiger steers people away from Eater of Names' base, extracts information for the Spiral Dancer to use, and trains Eater of Names and his allies to fight you. The Answering Tiger is an immensely powerful asset for Eater of Names to use. It's red inside from the blood on the light bulb. Nin, wearing only boxer shorts and a secret stairway t-shirt, stands over a middle-aged woman with her throat torn open. She hands you her ID, Massachusetts State Police, then her weapon, a revolver with silver bullets. "I killed her," Nin says. "I killed her twice. I killed her for the first time and then we beat Eater of Names, but then I realized it was a lie and I killed you. I'm sorry, it was the only way I could think of to get out. To get out of the Answering Tiger. I'm so tired, Luis. I've been doing this for so long. I don't want to do it again." "Why? Am I singing tonight?" We need the Song of the Moon Path," you say. Nin blinks. "The what?" She blinks again. "Who are you?" "Nin," you say. For a moment you can see stripes gliding across her radiant eyes. And then suddenly she grabs your arm like she's drowning. "Luis," she says. "I'm sorry. My attention wandered for a moment. I'm sorry about the dead woman. She isn't a Fomor, right? I thought I was fighting a Fomor." There's no evidence that the woman was anything other than a normal human, but you probably don't need Nin worrying about that. You stuff Nin into a spare poncho, scrub some blood out of her hair. "Why is everyone always scrubbing me? I have better than average hygiene for a werewolf. Or a musician!" And get her back to the parking lot at the 7-Eleven, where the gas line has grown so that it stretches all the way down past Ernie's garage to the Dunkin'. Eater of Names kind of points to something that I find interesting about the World of Darkness as a whole. All the different creatures you play are powerful in their own right, and dip into power fantasies of them. But in a lot of ways, the creatures you play are basically doomed. Vampires are doomed to loss of humanity or an unpleasant death, and vampires as a species are doomed to wither as the newest vamps get less and less powerful. Here, the werewolves are facing a force so overwhelmingly big that even they can't handle it. They can't stop the apocalypse, just delay it as long as they can. Or maybe they can stop it, who can say? But the Garou have a difficult fight ahead of them, one that they've been fighting for thousands of years. And now it is time to talk about the mechanics of the game. And this one might be a fairly lengthy section. We are working with the same basic system from Night Road. Every check looks at 2 stats, 1 attribute and 1 skill. But these stat checks can be boosted by your equipment, which werewolf form you are taking, and your current rage. You can increase your stats through the use of trainers, who are allied with the wolves. Provide money to the trainers, they increase your stats. You gain money both passively and actively, as you get a job in Northampton, and you can make more money if you increase attribute stats that help with the job you choose. And you can also find supplemental funding. The exact money amount isn't shown to you, but the amount of time you can spend training is given to you. Hopeland smiles when you say you want to learn the art of the hard sell. He emails you the next day with a Massachusetts state ballot initiative related to whale-safe fishing. A good wedge issue, he explains, to get more citizens to think about environmental matters, so the Garou don't have to kill as many people. Very humanitarian. Your job, get people to sign that ballot initiative by any means short of physical assault or overt fraud. Hopeland doesn't care how you do it. You print out your blank signature form and hit Main Street, outside the mini-mall, a little downtown mall. Keeping your mind open to different techniques and forcing your rage down as people aggressively ignore your presence, you start asking for signatures. You get 50 signatures on your first outing, 100 on your second, and by the time you filled your sheet, you've got almost 1,000. Earlier I mentioned rage. Let's look into that. Vampire the Masquerade has a hunger meter for the vampires. Werewolves use rage as a similar resource. A werewolf's base rage is dependent on the phase of the moon they are born under. New moon Ragabashes default to 1 rage. Full moon Ahruns default to 4 rage. My Gibbous Moon Galliard, which I use for footage capture, defaults to 3. The more rage you have, the more buffs you will get to physical checks, but you will get debuffs for intellectual ones. You can also spend a rage point to shapeshift into one of your 5 forms. And certain spirit gifts also need you to spend rage, but not all of them. Now your rage will move towards your wolf's equilibrium point as weeks pass, so when beginning your main missions, you will usually have the same level of rage. Now you can gain and lose rage. If you're in a situation and you work to escalate it, go and belligerently pick a fight, you will gain rage. If you back down from a fight, you will lose rage. Belligerence increases rage, cowardice decreases rage. A common way you can spend rage is to heal from injuries. When you first learned of werewolves' amazing regenerative powers, you didn't appreciate how you'd experience all the pain in a month-long recovery in a few minutes. Now you know how your flesh gropes clumsily like a blind man, sealing itself back together, repairing torn nerve endings in a frenzy of agonizing life urge. In seconds, the living energy of Gaia has healed you inside and out, and left you shuddering from pain and nausea. Moreover, you feel spiritually diminished, your rage exhausted. Similarly, you will also gain rage whenever you get injured. So you might be tempted to let your character get hurt in order to get a point of rage to use to shapeshift or use a gift. Be careful when managing your rage though. If you use too many gifts or are too cowardly or shapeshift too often and your rage goes to 0, you will lose the wolf, which will prevent you from being able to shift again and lock away any spirit gifts you have until you get your rage back. However, let your rage go too high by getting hurt or picking fights, and you will frenzy, shifting immediately to your monstrous Krenos form and start wrecking everything in sight. This usually causes a lot more problems than could possibly fix. You feel your rage building and let it vent by spontaneously taking on your Glarble form. The others follow suit, all except Nin, who shifts into her direwolf form, so big that she can physically block an entire hallway. You hang back with her, shifting your grip on your machete, as the other 3 charge down the hallway. Gunfire crackles as Podge engages a squad of guards. You follow, spot 3 more guards trying to flank him, and signal Melody, who rushes them with her axe. She catches a stray round, which immediately causes Porcupine to lash out, sending a ricochet into her attacker's brain. And then she's among them with an axe, ripping and hacking. More guards have barricaded themselves behind desks, with the office workers in the next room. They don't last long either, especially once Nin charges in and starts flattening people and furniture. A few final gunshots and it's over. Your machete is dark with blood, but you can't even remember who you got. Next up, the wolf shapes. And for this, I'm going to steal this picture from Werewolf the Apocalypse's Heart of the Forest, as I find it to be a good illustration of shifting. You have 5 forms that you can take while doing your thing. Most of your time will be spent in Homid form, as when you're not doing wolf stuff, you will be doing human stuff. However, you can also pretty easily take on the Lupus form. Natural wolf form is useful for covering distance, heightened senses, and better stealth. The Homid and Lupus forms are the only forms that take no effort to maintain, and there is no rage cost to shift into them. Then you have the Glarbo, or near-human form. This is the human form with wolf traits added on. You will be taller, stronger, a little fuzzier, and you will still be able to have use of tools. If you're lucky, you might not even completely shred your clothes when shifting into this form. This seems to be Podge's preferred form. Now, we had the near-human, let's look into the near-wolf. The Hispo, or direwolf form, is basically the wolf form, but more. It's bigger, it's sturdier, and runs real fast. It has great stamina for non-stop moving. This seems to be Nin's preferred form. Both the Glarbo and the Hispo form need their werewolf to spend 1 rage in order to shift into them from Homid or Lupus form. And the Garou might shift back into Homid or Lupus by themselves after some time. And finally, the monstrous Krenos form, for when you need whatever is in front of you to die real fast. Bipedal, but still able to run on all forms, huge, and bearing long claws that will tear into flesh like it's nothing. In order to enter this form from Homid or Lupus, you need to spend 2 rage. Or if you're in Glarbo or Hispo form, you can spend 1 rage. You were patient as you leaned on this monster's mortal servants for information, but the time for planning and subtlety is long past. Still, even now you hesitate to adopt the dreadful Krenos form. For the past hour, you stalked this bane in the form of a huge and monstrous wolf, but now you change. Mindless fury threatens to overwhelm you, as your flesh rips and tears, reshaping itself into the dreadful warm form of the Garou. A 9-foot-tall walking wolf, jaws huge and slavering, claws longer than a prehistoric cave bear's. A godlike incarnation of rage. You're still yourself, but how long can you survive the hurricane and murder lust within? You stay low and creep towards the trees, fighting this form's near overwhelming desire to rend and kill without thought. The Bane knows you're here. The rider hesitates between the steel lance once again held in its hand and the assault rifle slung across its chest. The gusting snow hides your approach. The Bane sticks the lance into the snow, pops off the rifle's safety, raises the weapon in a smooth motion, convinced you're maybe 20 or 30 yards out. He's wrong. You leap. Now, earlier I was talking about spirit gifts. Let's go into that. When you collect your other packmates, you will also unlock a few places where you can commune with spirits. The Sacred Forest, the Barrows, and Rosemary Street. Most spirits seem to have association with animals, but others are spirits tied to dead people, or are tied to objects like statues and totems. Yet others are something else altogether. These spirits give you gifts that seem to work like the disciplines in Vampire the Masquerade, giving your character boosts to your stat checks, either automatically or in exchange for a point of rage, and sometimes even gives you extra options altogether. Isn't she beautiful? She's no butterfly species you've seen before, and every time you look at her she changes. But she's dazzling every time. And you think she can make you like her. With Butterfly's blessing, you can dazzle, delight, and charm. Sure, it's a superficial delight and only works on humans, but it's awfully hard to look away. Using Butterfly's gift. Butterfly enhances your social skills, but only with humans. Butterfly's gift works automatically as long as you haven't lost the wolf, and relies on your composure. Earning Butterfly's gift. As an honorable and well-regarded Galliard who's shown respect for humanity, you are worthy of Butterfly's blessing. Butterfly requires 3 nights of honorable chiminage. Each night you must make, and then forget, a new friend among the human world. Upon re-establishing yourself, Elton will give you a rite that will allow you to communicate with the spirits, and he explains what you need to do to acquire their gifts. It comes down to 2 parts. First, your personality needs to align with that spirit. As you go through the game, you do roleplay a bit, and depending on how you behave, you get points towards convictions. Things like, do you trust humans? Do you focus on rage or spirit? Do you prioritize your own personal survival over the job of fixing the world? Things like that. Different spirits will gravitate towards different attitudes. Also, different spirits will restrict their gifts to certain auspices, which moon you've been born under, and some will restrict their gifts to certain tribes. Pigeons get no respect. Rats with wings. And maybe pigeons aren't that impressive, but Pigeon guides the souls of the dead. Pigeon watches for cosmic storms that sometimes tear through the umbra, obliterating whole kingdoms beyond the imagination of the living. And Pigeon can guide a werewolf through the spirit wilds and safely back to this world of flesh and stone. Using Pigeon's gift, Pigeon lets you enter the Umbra on your own with your equipment and safely return. Entering the Umbra requires rage. Her gift also hurts. Using Pigeon relies on composure, though navigating the Umbra sometimes requires both intelligence and considerable knowledge of the occult world. Earning Pigeon's gift. Pigeon only reveals the secrets of the Umbra to Thurges. A few spirits do have requirements that are actually impossible to meet. For example, one spirit will only give gifts to Wolfbarn Garou, which is not a backstory option for you. But the gift is given to Nin. Yeah, some of the spirits can't give you gifts, but are more there to explain some of the abilities that your packmates might have. Now, just because you have to have a certain personality to get a certain gift, doesn't mean you are locked off from another gift from the other end of the conviction track. If, for example, you get a gift associated with following werewolf law, called the Litany, you can work to get points towards denying werewolf law in order to get access to a different gift associated with that. The book even has text that gives you a tentative approval to game the system like this. Elton laughs and says, "Great Kaya, I haven't heard someone ask a question that crazy since I met Catherine." And her teacher was quick to answer, "No, of course not. One would never treat one's own beliefs as merely convenient instruments, wicker cages used to capture spirits." And then she immediately converted to Catholicism, just to see if she could catch a spirit that way. It worked. Then she spent a few months in a psychiatric hospital, renounced her former religion, and kept the gift. Was she okay, you ask? Catherine was never okay, Elton says. But she always got what she wanted. Now second, while you need to have a certain personality to get a gift, you need to put in the work to seal the deal. Spirits require chiminage. Chiminage? Chiminage? I looked up the word and I couldn't find a pronunciation. Spirits seem to subsist on the legend of the Garou. It seems somewhat similar to the idea of gods needing worshippers to gain power, so a werewolf needs to gain renown and spend it on the spirits. There are 3 types of renown: glory for victory in battle, honor for looking after your allies, and wisdom for finding clever solutions. You will gain points in these as you succeed in your tasks, and you will spend these points on the spirits for their gifts. Which type of renown is needed is dependent on the spirit. But I've seldom had trouble getting the specific renown I need. Elton smiles and says, "You have a contemplative and spiritual nature, Luis. That's not bad for a Garou, though sometimes you really will need to rip someone in half." You shrug. You can kill if you must. Elton continues, "If you choose to hone that spiritual clarity, spirits of mastery and peace will be attracted to you. Of course, on the other hand, you may struggle to compact with more warlike spirits. And of course, not all spirits will accept you. They must follow their natures too, and they're bound by the laws to serve Garou only of certain auspices or tribes. And in addition, you have to impress them." "Make your legend," you mutter, reciting Clay's words. "An opportunity denied you by your old pack," Elton says with sudden anger. "Glory, honor, wisdom. The truths around which we live, that shape our existence as Garou." His fingers twitch, writing Garou glyphs in the air almost faster than you can see. "They're solid things to us, as real as gravity. This is what I think your pack failed to impress upon you. These are what we offer the spirits, our legends. But our accomplishments are not consumed in earning a gift. They are given meaning, and as the spirits feed, they grow strong. Look at this ruined land. He can see what you cannot, but you can feel the deep wounds in the forest, the decay that's settling in." And I believe that covers things. This is a long and involved book, but it's possibly the most rewarding of all the Choose Your Own Adventure books I've read. I love the writing, the planning, the characters, and the variety of things you can do using the large list of mechanics available. As a final bit, I have some speculation. Marquis has now done the obvious World of Darkness properties, Vampire the Masquerade and Werewolf the Apocalypse. Assuming he's going to keep going with these, I wonder if his next project will be a book for Mage the Ascension in order to continue his story about Giselle. Another possibility would be Wraith the Oblivion, as some of that stuff was brought up in the DLC for Night Road. We will see what's in store. As for now, though, I will continue to thoroughly enjoy this book. The vault door bangs. A tablet hung from a peg in the unfinished wall shows 2 camera views outside of Melody in her Krynos form. Both hands are black with blood. She leans against the vault door, rage bleeding away as her bullet-riddled flesh heals. You don't see any living personnel, so you find the manual door control, marked out by an index card that reads "in case of fire," and crank it open. An exhausted and naked woman stumbles inside. Clumps of blood cling to her curly auburn hair. She slides down the wall. Bullets clatter onto the dropped floor tiles as she finishes healing. You push the vault door closed, and it seals with a hollow bang. "Kids were super into creepypasta when I was in high school," the Philodox mutters. "But the real creepypasta, Luis? It's seeing your own intestines. That's the real... Here's your friend." I return her axe. And I believe that is all. Have a great day, everyone. Take care, friends. So let's talk about Werewolf the Apocalypse, Book of Hungry Names, and the rabbit is eating things, which cracks open and slides down the icy heel. Heel?